you have to at this point be better than Kindle, essentially. And you can't, it's not just enough to be the same content as Kindle. You have to be better than Kindle because that's good enough for most people. And most people are happy with good enough. And most people don't want to move their library. So you have to think about ways around that. And a lot of them, including myself, has like 3,000 books in Amazon Kindle. Like, digital lock-in is a problem that only digital has to deal with. Like, that's the one thing that I think retailers who have to deal with like tremendously more problems, and I have so much empathy and love for. Like, it's the one digital thing that's really hard.
Is technology going to kill comics or save them? We are living in a moment where comics are thriving in print, but digital is still struggling to find its footing. Every publisher and retailer is asking the same thing. What does the future of comics in a digital space really look like? If we don't solve this, comics risk being left behind in a world where music, film, and books have all gone digital. But if we do it right, we open up global audiences and whole new revenue streams for creators, publishers, and shops, not to mention all of those new customers that are going into the comic shops. My guest today is Kenny Myers. He has a rare vantage point. He cut his teeth at Silicon Valley giants like Meta, Adobe, Reddit, and Airbnb. Then he co-founded Omnibus, one of the most ambitious digital comics platforms in recent memory. Today, he's leading Suite, a software studio building tools for comics creators, publishers, and retailers. We'll dig into what Kenny learned from his time with those big tech guys, the lessons of Omnibus, and how Suite is tackling the problems that have stalled digital comics for years. Discoverability, marketing, and connecting creators to shops. We're even going to tackle some of the controversial stuff. I got him to talk about AI, about distribution, and whether comics really need a winner-take-all digital platform or something entirely different. If you care about the business of comics and the future of where this medium is headed, stick around. And if you like conversations like this, hit subscribe. I promise, if you leave a comment or hit like or get an alert or share it with a friend, it really does help us make more of these. All right, with all that said, Kenny Myers.
So excited to be on this podcast. This is one of the podcasts I learned the most from.
Oh, wow.
Given the breadth of experience and even like figures that you've brought on that I've interacted with, like David Harper, who's a journalist.
Yeah.
You ask all the questions I would want to ask David. So this is a real treat for me. And I appreciate that. The only caveat I have is that I do bring some of the knowledge from Silicon Valley, but hopefully none of the terror of Silicon Valley. Like, none of the horrible things that has been spawned and created in that place. So.
It does truly, in many, I mean, our entire world seems to have come out of the tech space. And man, I don't know. Are we in dystopia? Is it, how are you feel? Like, yeah, you're somebody who sees what technology is and what it's going to be. Like, generally speaking, do you feel like we're we're about to go into a dark age, or do you, I mean, obviously you're building something. Is technology going to kill us all?
Yeah, probably, but unfortunately, I'm a humanist and an optimist, and so those two things combined means I believe that we have the ability to be kind and good and ultimately will do good things, even if things get really, really crappy for a while. It's a real balance. Obviously, there's a lot of things happening in the tech space that is really disheartening, is a light way to put it, for people in a creative space like comics. But I think we just double down on what makes us gooey, sloppy bags of water walking around, and art is one of those things. and comics is one of the best mediums for it. I wish I'd like smiled and like a sparkle hit my teeth. I was like, comics is one of the best things for it. Thanks for listening to Prada.
Comics.
Comics.
Yeah, I agree with you. In this last year, we started working with a bunch of hackers, and at times working with them feels it's a little terrifying, because you
Yeah,
ask them, like, what are the things that keep you up at night, and it's real. Like,
yeah,
they know what all the dangers are.
yeah,
um and yet, for the most part, everyone we've dealt with in that space is so uh, optimistic and determined,
yeah,
and I think I love that about them. Like, there's still this humanity. As much as we might think that the systems are going to take over and that Terminator is going to come for us, at the end of the day, it's all humans doing human shit, and I think we're going to lean
yeah.
into being human more than anything else, right? Or maybe I'm being overly optimistic about that.
I mean, I think that I mean, even now, as things get flooded, it'll be even harder to determine uh, what is real, which is an insane thing to say. Uh, but I think that will kind of go towards actually, like, this sounds very weird, but like verified, like, human experiences. I think
Yeah,
that there's a real lovely thing there. And some people might uh implant cybernetics in themselves and become transhuman, like robot people,
sure,
which is fine, and they might not want those experiences.
right.
But I tend to favor all the messy things that make us lovely and uh, a problematic species, but but a good one, I think.
Well, and it's funny. This is strangely enough, this is like the third time I've had this conversation in 24 hours, and the first time I had it was with a retailer, and we were talking about how generally comics retailers are seeing this sort of upward trend of sales right now,
Yeah,
and I think there are a number of reasons for it, but one of the things that makes me really optimistic about the direct market is it's such a stable world of brick and mortar stores, and I think we're going to lean into wanting physical spaces that we can go into, where we can interact with physical items that were made by people, as opposed to like digital things that may never have even touched a human hand before they're being flashed at our eyeballs.
and are you saying this before we talk about my digital comic store? No, I mean, I get that. Like, I think you and I have spoken about this very frequently. I love comic stores, and I think that human connection is so important. And I think that curation and that space will become significantly more important
Mm-hmm.
as time goes on. And I just want them to be more of them, and for them to be more successful. Because they're just, I mean, they're the place where I found my love of comics, and yeah, no, I think that will you'll probably see that trend continue too, and a lot of the big one, like, I don't know, I'm come to this space very new and very open minded, so I can only see trends that are happening now and not having experienced what a lot of retailers have from like the 80s and 90s onward, where things got crazy. um
Yeah.
but it feels good to be in comics right now. I
I've
think
Yeah.
it's a time of change. I know it's really hard for a lot of things and a lot of publisher friends of mine, but um, maybe it's good. I don't know. The humanist optimist thing kicks in again, and maybe some people don't want to hear that.
No, I agree, and it is a strange time in that the stores are doing incredibly well. Many of the publishers are, but like anybody who got sucked down into the morass of the distribution debacle that's still ongoing, they're struggling, and I think that it'll take us a long time, I think, before that this rising tide lifts all of the boats.
Yeah,
But yeah, all right. So let's deal with you come with a real resume. A lot of times, I mean, you look at my resume and it's all just I just been working in comics my whole life. But you come out from outside. I mean, Meta, Adobe, Reddit, Airbnb, like these are real big tech companies.
yeah.
Talk about that experience, and why would you? I mean, you were on you had one of the coveted positions in our society. What makes you go, all right, comic books? What is it like getting into that world?
It starts with a friend being like, you should work at this place.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough that the timing hit where when I started working at Meta, which was early, they started bringing in a lot of incredibly talented designers because they just started throwing money at people.
Mm-hmm.
My answer to pretty much all the questions I found working in a large corporation very frustrating. Ultimately, like depression creating, frustrating with me.
Right.
I was given constant feedback that maybe a lot of people in comics could relate to, is that I have a problem with authority, which doesn't work as a company gets bigger.
Yeah.
And ultimately, there's just a lot of like Silicon Valley, the HBO show, is a little exaggerated, but there are like real truthful moments. Like even in the beginning, like the first episode has like a Kid Rock concert, and he like comes out yelling and screaming, and then it pans out, and the crowd is just a couple people like just like sitting around drinking beers, and that's happened to me so many times, like unexcited corporate events. Um, so my love of tech really comes from as a kid. My dad was a software engineer. We had computers around the house. I learned to build computers. I love games. I played games, and then I learned to build websites in the '90s. And then that sort of always became a hobby. I went to school. I started a band. I didn't do web things for a while, um, and then just kept it as a hobby. And that obviously the timing was right, but I wasn't a particularly I was an okay employee. I could keep the jobs, but I wasn't an accelerant or anything that did anything particularly um, outstanding, other than the work was delivered and it was done well. But yeah, so I mean, it was a very frustrating journey, and ultimately one I really, really burned out on. Which led to seeking other spaces like comics for comfort. But beyond that, I became a digital collector um, when Comixology was a thing, and then it wasn't a thing, and I was like, there should be a thing, and so that's where we are. That's my sort of weird, like whenever people talk to me, I kind of like don't love talking about my tech jobs because um, I found them to be as frustrating internally as they are externally to people with a lot of the decisions that they make. So yeah, it was a whirlwind, but you know, it taught me a lot about how those kind of things move, how to move quickly. There are good lessons in there.
Was there any in particular achievements or pieces that you built that you're proud of? Things that you look back on, like, oh, I did that, right? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, so there was the Facebook. I was there at Facebook when they were just launching their like business program, and I was a part of the team that was building that out back when it wasn't like destroying people with its algorithm, but it was just like, oh, you could actually post stuff and people would be able to see it because
Right.
it's internal. Like things like that really upset me. It's just like that was working really well
Yeah.
for a lot of people, but they just get so greedy. Um, the that was really fun. I helped sort of relaunch like Creative Cloud. Adobe's Creative Cloud has like a hub app with a bunch of stuff, and I was on the iOS team, and we relaunched that, and we took it from like a 2-star app to like a 4.8-star app, which was dope.
Wow.
Um,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah, and at Reddit, I was part of their commerce team when they were sort of launching all the, I mean, they had the ads at that point, but they were launching all the collectibles and stuff like that. I didn't particularly love the NFT components of that, but like the customization stuff is really fun because I come from a game, like a
Yeah.
lover of games, and that's a part of that. So those are kind of my three biggest things. Then beyond that, it was just like shipping small features because I've mostly done user facing work, so things that you've used, things that you've been frustrated with, I've had a part of in those places. So yeah.
Yeah, if you were at all frustrated with any of those companies during that period, it probably was Kenny. Would you say?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just put my email under this blanket.
So all of this leads to, let's say, according to my notes, we're looking at 2022 for
Yeah.
Omnibus. Is that
Hmm.
where that starts? How's that come together?
So my former partner Travis and I were frustrated with our jobs to a certain degree. Like I talked about, it's just kind of a repetitive cycle. It gets sort of samey. I had missed the comicsology of yore,
Yeah.
um, and there wasn't really any good competitors in the space. Global had just kind of started; they hadn't launched their mobile apps yet, um, and we just thought it would be a good time to see if we could do this, and we thought we could, and so we charged kind of head first, not knowing anything about it, uh, not knowing how the comic industry works or how the people are, and that's when we started. Yeah, and we kind of went cold, and then we just tried. I cold like LinkedIn message publisher representatives, a lot of times the wrong person at the publisher,
Of course.
um, and was just like, "Hey, we're building the store. Can we talk?" And yeah, and then I think our first big like get, which we kind of determined as the bar. Like we were like, if we can get Image Comics, then we can do this. Like Marvel and DC will be tough. Let's do that. And we had a great meeting with Image, and they were like, "Yeah, let's do it. It costs X amount, per year." And we were like, "That's reasonable. Let's go." And so that was kind of the start of that interesting time in my life.
All right. So what was there were pieces. I know we're going to get into the current stuff, but like there were pieces of you said comicsology of yore
Yeah.
that you felt like Omnibus could replicate. What were those pieces that you felt like were missing that you were able to do?
Yeah, so I mean, like one of the biggest things was in-app purchase, like the ability to just read the next comic immediately. We felt like um, just the browsability of comics, like finding new things, were particularly bad on all surfaces right now. I mean, Amazon's really all about search. I mean,
Yeah,
at this point, I consider Kindle a bookstore that has comics. It's not really a comic store in the
it's
same
really
thing,
not right.
and that's fine. I mean, like the three biggest digital comic stores in the country are like iBooks, Google Play, and Amazon Kindle, which are bookstores by their nature, interestingly enough. So, uh, so yeah, we thought that we could do that. We thought that we could kind of make discovery better. We could make in-app purchases work again. We could build a better reader. Because at that, like they've improved it a little since then. It's not quite where it was, but the reader on Kindle is actually pretty bad. I think
Yeah.
it's pretty slow. Um, I know that team is resource limited on comics, but and they try hard, and like they've ramped up a little lately, but um, that is all a huge bummer. So we thought that we could also then put improvements in pieces that would make the experience more fun, for like make a really fun space, like a comic store for discovering comics. Except you could just do it at 3 a.m. wherever you are.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. I would say that, the discoverability is it's weirdly the thing that we no longer have in digital spaces, right? I mean, I don't ever go into Amazon and buy something that I wasn't looking for, right?
Yeah,
It just I mean, including books. Like I don't browse through books. I buy books through Amazon when I need to, but like I don't ever go, oh yeah, I'll try that too and add that on. That never is that a part of that experience. Why not? Like, what am I missing? What is it about that design that keeps me and people like me from even bothering with the search or with shopping? Let's call it, right, for lack of a better word.
I mean, they really don't have any compelling reason to invest in creating those kind of spaces, because they also involve like a human element to be good. Because I was speaking to someone in the publishing industry who was talking. They used to work on the Amazon, like, people also bought this, like the stuff you get after a purchase, and they said that had no traction. Like, it did not do the work that you think it would do.
Yeah.
Like the related or any item like that. And I think that's because when it comes to the arts, people are more interested in what other people, like their friends, like the promise of the 2010s of the social space, like the organic shares, things like that. Organic shares really sounds like a alien thing, but like, you're probably gonna get a recommendation from a friend, or you're probably gonna follow an artist, and they just don't.
Yeah.
They're just not built for that. They're built for search. They're built for the optimal price, and it's not a place to explore, because they've just become the default thing. You just go with someone has told you to read something, and
Yeah.
you go and buy it.
And it's just, it's funny that somebody is doing the work of the comic shop employee. This person, by the way, I don't know if you've ever heard me give this pitch. I've been trying to find people who I know are really invested in this space, and tasking them with, we need to find a label, a name for the job of somebody who works in a comic shop, because it's such a
Yeah,
specific job. It's such a specific skill set of being able to interact with people and recommend and like understand who someone is, and pull one book out of thousands and say this is your next favorite, right?
yeah,
And it should be on the level of what Starbucks did with the word barista, right?
yeah.
Suddenly it's something to aspire to, not just somebody who just serves coffee and pours coffee. It's a barista. I feel like we should be able to find that name for.
Like a comic sommelier, like to be
Yeah,
bougie. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
the word influencer does exist, and that is kind of a way people do. I get
That's
that it
true.
is it is attached to a lot of baggage, especially as we get to people my age and older. Like, it's like, oh, that, it's less so for younger generations, but a tastemaker. I agree. That 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 person, that sort of like, it's like a network to find what you're looking for, is is so hard to find, and has to be so welcoming to be effective. And
Yeah,
from my experience, comic shops are their own personalities too, so it's,
truly.
um you then people like match. Not only do people kind of match to their store, right? Like, they just like, this is my place, even if there are multiple options. And so, yeah, I don't know what that word is. I did study English literature, so I could spend some time
Would
on
you?
it for you.
Would you
Yeah,
please?
I can't promise it won't be a bad portmanteau. So, so
I've gotten plenty.
yeah, pretty much where it's going. I mean, comic sommelier was my first pitch, so we're going down a trash road.
You
Yeah,
can't. Oh, believe me, I've heard worse.
yeah,
In this quest to find that word.
yeah,
Well, okay, so Omnibus, you see some early results. You get
yeah.
Image Comics in. I'm assuming that you had plenty more at that point. Talk about the size of Omnibus when it was, when it was still a going concern. What was it at the most optimistic? What did it look like?
Oh, I have such a lens on it based on what happened.
Yeah.
So, we had at a certain point almost every major indie publisher, which really hadn't been accomplished, um, in a while, which was lovely. So that was like the biggest achievement. Like, IDW signed on, was like our last one. We had Dark Horse, we had, um, Image, and we may or may not have been talking to one of the big two. But ultimately, there was no marketing on our part, and so there's a lot of reasons for that, but you can't do anything without marketing. And also, fundamentally, it was a broken partnership, which is ultimately why I kind of got the boot, to a certain degree, 6 months before it closed, because I kind of, that gets complicated on that path. But
Sure.
the long and short of it is, I was like, we can't do this. There was a strategic disagreement on how we would move forward. We were equal partners. We brought in we had taken VC money, always fun, to make that decision because they could,
Yeah.
and they decided on my partner, and so I left in tears in December of
Oh,
2023. Um, I loved every minute of building that store. A partnership that doesn't work is fundamentally a business that doesn't work, especially when you have to do something like that. So
truly.
yeah, and then 6 months later, he closed it. I tried to get it back. It I think we had gotten early enough, and we had enough traction with publishers that if it had kept going to a certain degree, it would have been tough to manage certain pieces of it. But if you'd have just stuck to it, it'd actually be in a really good spot right now. That being said, can't change that. Um, I tried to get it to keep it going because the last thing I want is yet another digital store disappointing people, and I loved it. I'm I used to say I'm the only idiot who's going to do this twice, but that is no longer the case. Now there's a couple of idiots who are all doing this again. So
It's very
um,
true. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
There are a couple idiots. We're going to talk about them because I think that there's some lessons that are interesting to see how they are extrapolated on both for you and for them.
yeah.
But yeah, I think it is interesting that this problem seems to be not, I won't say insurmountable, but it's fascinating to me that, I mean, we've talked about how comics lives in this space that is defies, the technological shifts seemingly, but it also seems to defy a shift for media that seems inevitable everywhere else, right? For music, for film, for even books, arguably, like we don't. They are all almost natively digital now, and it's just so rare that a physical medium even gets involved.
Yeah,
Somehow, though, comics seems to have bucked that trend uh, up until now, almost to a frustrating result. I mean, an end, because as publishers, our job is to look for multiple revenue sources and multiple audiences, and in other media, you would be able to say, well, our digital footprint is going to be this big, and we can get revenue. We know we can depend on this kind of revenue, but we've never really gotten there with comics, and
yeah.
I think we have suffered as a result of that for discoverability of the medium. So can you talk just for a minute? And we've actually had a couple different people on the show discussing, why is that? Why is comics so hard to sell digitally?
So I think it wasn't, and then I think the decision to sell Comixology actually crippled the progress of the digital comic industry. I think you just look at Webtoons, which has been around for a long, long time.
Yeah.
I know it gets all the press now, but I mean, it's been around since like the 90s, which is crazy for any digital business. And like I think people think the format on Webtoons is the winner, but I think it's the content, clearly the stories. So I think that really crippled the Comixology sale. Really disenfranchised a ton of people. I know people who stopped reading comics when they moved to Amazon when they took away in-app purchase.
Mm-hmm.
They just stopped. Um, I think that is um, that was by all, because I've interviewed tons of people at Comixology. Like Amazon made up the money that like they kept making money, but everyone else lost money and never recovered it from that instance. So at that point, it becomes an interesting, like, here's some insider baseball is there were big expensive contracts to get exclusivity in that time, and there was a lot of heavy competition, and eventually came down to like iVerse and Comixology. Um, and one of the strategies is to take venture capital and like buy big exclusive deals. And then, of course, everyone in comics wants money because there's not a lot. Like everyone like you can get over any hump if you have money in the world. I guess you could
Yeah,
argue that in any business, really.
very true. Yeah.
Yeah. Money will solve most problems. So it became like this very competitive, fierce landscape, and I think ultimately publishers had a higher threshold for what they were willing to like do for certain money. Like they're like, we need the X amount of dollars. And many startups came in and tried, but they all tried gimmicks. I have lots of thoughts about this. Which road do you want to go down with
Let's
me?
go. Let's
Like,
go. This is long form. Let's dig in.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I genuinely think that the crippling of digital comics started with that sale. Um, that sale, from what I've gathered, had to happen because so much money had been spent on resources to make sure
Right.
like exclusivity was happening, that otherwise the company itself would cease to exist, and then nobody would have any money. So that's the nature of things. Um, and as a result of that, like it was really kicking. Um, they just man, I just like I think that I really put that as the pivotal moment. Um, and then it was just like consumer trust, right? As you well know, as everyone who watches this podcast, the comics space can be very, very cynical. Um,
Truly.
and the digital space is even worse because even my own has like something I started has like closed, and that kept happening. And you have to at this point be better than Kindle, essentially. And you can't, it's not just enough to be the same content as Kindle. You have to be better than Kindle because that's good enough for most people, and most people are happy with good enough. And most people don't want to move their library, so you have to think about ways around that. And a lot of them, including myself, has like 3,000 books in Amazon Kindle. Like digital lock-in is a problem that only digital has to deal with. Like that's the one thing that I
Mm.
think retailers who have to deal with like tremendously more problems, and I have so much empathy and love for. Like it's the one digital thing that's really hard. Like that's why subscriptions rise up, which is another thing. So I there's all these different factors that keep people in different places. But I truly think that we would be in a different age, maybe with like another IPO of Comixology as a source of revenue, because there were things that they were doing that were like super cool, like they were doing an affiliate program for retailers, like
Sure.
they had storefronts, and the minute that Amazon sale happened, they just like pulled the rug out from everyone. So
Truly.
I've that's a bummer. Um, and so yeah, so I've been trying to desperately not just recreate that scenario, like a lot of the different pieces of it, but also, Sweet Shop is my and my team's like push into here's where we think this can go. And yeah, so I think the space is very complicated. There's a lot of space though. Like I don't think anyone has to be a king of the crown. Like again, lock-in library, digital lock-in library is a problem. The walled garden is a problem that we face in that space, and so yeah, I mean it's it it needs good players who want to make people money. In my opinion, I don't know.
I agree with that.
That's my like multi like this is where it fell, where it could have been, and then I think there's ways it's growing now, and we have a whole generation, several generations of people who are ready and hungry for the space too, that are not men who look like me in their 40s that do only read digitally. I mean,
Right.
that's I think that space. I think there's a reason. There's going to be three of us going big in this space. So
You've finished up Omnibus. You guys are, that you're out. You get tearful farewells. I'm sure you went off to lick your wounds for a minute. At some point in the next, I guess it was what 6 months or so. At some point,
Hmm.
you decide you're going to do this. How does something like Sweet, like how does it come together? Is there a piece that when it shows up, you go, oh, all right, now we're ready?
There was a decision where I was like, do I want to stay working in the comic space?
Yeah.
I think that was the critical moment because I was looking in the gaming space. Another geek space I'm a part of that is also as complicated and nerdy. Um, and so I think I really thought about all the people I had met. Um, the real secret of comics is the community and the creators and the retailers and like are just, with few exceptions, very lovely people, really trying their hardest to make a form that should be more popular than it is, more popular than it is, right? And I love that. As again, there's a punk rock thing to comics that I really love and I find endearing. Um, could write a whole love letter to comics, and I found that really lovely. And then I reached out to creators at different levels, like Kieran Gillen, who I was lucky enough to snag his email, and Kelly Sue DeConnick, and then people like Jaslyn Stone, who I think you've had on your program before. And
She was part of a panel, and I think we're going to do a longer form interview with her coming up. So,
is that your digital, like, was that your like physical will save digital panel with 0 digital people on it? Is that one? You bastard! You don't think I was so give so much? I haven't given you shit for that, but you deserve it. I saw that and I'm like, wait, all these people are on the retail side.
listen,
Uh,
you know what? If print has to bail digital out again, we might as well.
to some degree, to a lesser extent, it's like those women in comics panel of old where it's all men, like just like it's just like, what are you doing?
Kenny, that was about me getting a chance to pitch our magazine
Yeah, yeah,
and a little thing called marketing in the
uh-huh.
title. Okay, it was just a little.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've heard about
uh-huh.
this.
No, I didn't. I thought I told you I didn't. That's what happened at Omnibus. Um, yeah, I get that. So I'm gonna start a panel like how Kenny will save Prada. That's my next
Probably.
panel. It's a very
Probably.
niche panel, but I think I'll get at least 2 people. Um, there's and I was like, I asked them what do they need in this space? Like, what I loved building a store. What do you need? And eventually, what came out of that is um, bindings, but really, like, it wasn't the only thing I wanted to build after thinking about all the different pieces in the space, and like some of which are dictated just by my love of building things. And I had the domain. So I was like, oh, I was going to use it for something else, but I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good. It reflects my weird, like, tongue-in-cheek, terrible personality. Let's do it. And so yeah, so I interviewed a lot of creators and I asked them like, what are they missing in the space? Like, what can be used? My hands were tied on another store, obviously, while Omnibus was going on, which was fine. Like, I stepped out of the way, and if it succeeded, it succeeded. That was great. I had a little bit of shares in it, so that's totally cool. And but I still wanted to be in the space, so
Right.
that was the genesis of Sweet. And then I recruited some friends, and I was like, hey, if I pay you like this much, will you just help me build the prototype of this for Emerald City? So it was pretty quick because Emerald Cities is like February, and I was
Yeah.
out in December of. Yeah, we move fast. And yeah, and so I was presenting like a prototype of like a marketing tool around Emerald City, and got lovely feedback from all those names I mentioned, because the ideas had really come from them. So um, that was the then we launched Sweet in March. I think it was March.
Okay.
You did the research, which is lovely. I'm very sorry you had to do that, but I appreciate it.
Listen, No, it's my favorite part about this project is that, like, I've known you for a while now. And I get to know the people. There are people that I have known for decades, but I've never had a real, it would be stalkery for me to
Yeah.
go in and like mention some part of your resume while we're having dinner. It just wouldn't be as cool, and so now I have an excuse to go in and dig deep, so yeah.
Well, you obviously have more polite bones in your body, because I would absolutely mention someone's resume to someone, some piece of them, some obscure interview I read of them. I've done it all the time, and that's why I have very few friends.
Yeah, I believe that. um so what makes Sweet how does Sweet stand out? I mean, we now have a pretty crowded field
Yeah.
of digital providers once again.
Hmm.
Actually, to ask this question, I want to go back and talk about the experience you mentioned to Iverse. There was a moment where it was this kind of horse race between Iverse and Comixology,
Yeah.
and I remember being in meetings with the publishers, like where we're debating which one are you going to back, and making, I mean, there's a pressure to make sure that you pick the right horse, and everybody
Yeah.
wants to be exclusive, and whatever. uh and I'll tell you, like, I visited the Iverse offices in Texas, and obviously we were in New York at the time, so I went to several of the Comixology escalating offices that were just filled with people doing panel by panel transitions.
Yeah.
It's such a weird time. Like, they went from having like a half dozen to like 2 floors of them, of just people
Yeah.
just picking panels. It was very strange. But I remember looking back on that, and for me, it just felt like this is the thing, that panel by panel is your piece. Like, Iverse had so many other features that felt like they were more interesting to me as a comics fan.
Yeah.
But obviously it was, what is that, I guess, lowest common denominator makes it sound so, kind of, I don't know, hoity toity on my part. But, like, the just breaking it down so that people don't have to think about where their eye tracks on a page just didn't seem like it was as interesting to me as all the other stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
So when you look at that, I guess, looking at that history, is there some piece of that makes you want Sweet to stand out from this crowd, right? This particular horse race that you're in. Is there an escalation from panel to panel? Is there some piece that is going to be the next feature that makes Sweet be the one that people should pick?
You mean like some secret thing we have hidden behind the cards that transform comics?
I hear that, but I also know how many people I've talked to in the tech world who, like, all right, here's an example. Somebody came along and said, "Hey, we want to address this distribution problem, and we have this tech, solution for it." And
Hmm.
they're pitching it to me, and I'm like, "Well, it won't work because you can't have publishers shipping all on their own. It has to be consolidated shipping, otherwise distribution doesn't work for the retailer." And their response was, "Oh, but what you don't understand is our tech is as good as it gets."
Yeah.
And my answer to that was, who cares? There
Agreed.
is no technological fix for the fact that the atoms that make up this book have to go into a box.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, that maybe there is not a tech solution to this, but I'm curious to know, is there some piece of this that is going to make, uh, if there is ends up having to be a winner, like, what is that, what distinguishes that winner, I guess?
Well, first, I don't think there has to be a winner. I
Okay.
mean, I understand what you're going for. I'm happy to be the Apple computer to someone's like Windows 95. Like, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
The VC driven ones are all about like burning and like looting, and we're just maybe stubbornly uh not about that. And so, you know, I think this is a long-term play. I think you just have to stick around. um, and it'll take time. It'll take quite a bit of time to earn user trust. So, and then, but you also have to make enough revenue to keep publishers on
To
board.
stick around.
Like, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, we aren't doing anything particularly like technologically like fat, like interesting. Like I just like those get so gimmicky and so
Right.
uninteresting to me. Uh, that there's been so much churn in the digital comic industry that um, I think the play is just to be like a stable place for people to discover and buy comics from a multitude of places. Now, we're very focused on discovery. We're very focused on finding people their comic, and bringing in new people, which is really more of a marketing play than it is like a technology play. We can do a subscription if that ends up being something people want. We can do like there's a lot of things we can do, but we just want to be in more places for more people, which includes like translation pipelines for all the comics on the platform, and also like a kids app, which I've talked about from the very beginning, so that parents can safely buy and um, kids can request purchases through native mechanisms. That kind of stuff is really important to us. So it's really just about getting comics in front of more people. Um, yeah, like everyone has their own little hook now. We don't want to do obviously digital collectibles. We don't want to do. I prefer not to do subscription because how it kind of drives comics to the bottom dollar. But we are going to use like cheap comics are important in digital spaces. So we are going to have cheap comics. We are going to have DRM free. Like we're looking for ways for people to feel comfortable buying, and then the goal is to just stay in the game.
Let's step back. Bindings was Bindings your first foray in? You started with Bindings and then opened up into Suite. Is that kind of how that went, or is it the other way
So
around?
bindings was sort of the what we were building, and then I knew I wanted to build other things. I had a plan for actually 4 pieces of software, um, and suite. I was like, well, this is a suite. It's a suite of software. That's the really cute pun. Thank you. I'll be here for another hour. Oh God, um, it's just so bad. Uh, so the suite is bindings, which is like a marketing tool, and um, we launched the beta in summer, and we just actually launched it in November, but it feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
Um, and that has been doing really well, and is really just about solving the problem of creators marketing their book and getting people into stores or to their digital space. It's like I call it fancy comic link tree. It just lets people preview the books, which is essential for whether or no you want to buy a comic, and it's actually incredibly hard to do, believe it or not, for preview
Shockingly
things.
so. Yeah.
Yeah, I know some of your pals are also working on in that space quite a bit too, of just getting that information, and it's lovely. um,
Mm-hmm.
and the yeah, so then we launched that in beta in summer, and we got some good traction there. um, and that was bindings, and that's still doing really well. We're really happy with it. Probably needs a little bit of a marketing boost, but
Well,
otherwise.
let's do some of that now. Who all is there? What success have you seen? Um, what pitch us on Bindings? Why should a creator be involved? Why should a consumer be checking it out?
Yeah, so bindings is really, I call it the Scott Snyder problem, where he signs up for so many things. I don't know what platforms, like exclusive things, that I wanted a place where I
Yeah.
could find where to get his books. um, and that's the pitch. It's a marketing tool. It's not. A lot of people have tried to asked about other things. It is very much designed for creators and some publishers to market their books and get them in front of people and get people to preview or read them and do something that grows their audience.
what's the revenue model there? How does it is it an actual business?
It is an actual business. Um, so it's like you pay for blocks of pages. We keep them up until either the business falls or the heat death of the universe, whichever comes soonest. Um, and those comics stay forever. And we have a subscription for what we call shelves, which is like a bunch of your books previewed together. So like Karen Gillan, as an example, puts all these multi-page like previews up of his books, and you can see like the Wicked Divine, and you can see the Power Fantasy, and they're all there previewable, and then they tell you where to go if you want to go to your library. They give you all the links, and it's quite lovely. For many creators, it's like a replacement link tree or a website. It's like the link you can put on Instagram, so people know what you're doing.
I love that. It's a constant problem. We were and I think it's a constant problem for everybody. I think we were talking earlier about how so many retailers, like their website now is their Facebook page, which is just not.
It's not great.
It's not enough.
It's not great.
It's not good,
especially since like I know people like there's Facebook is very popular with older people, but not younger people in general.
No, not. No, yeah, you're right. I know plenty of younger people and plenty of older people who have just given up on anything that is attached to Meta. So,
oh, why have they done things? Have they done anything strange? Or I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. I work there, by the way.
I think I heard a headline.
Are they doing things that are crappy?
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So Bindings I've seen it. It's a really fantastic platform. It absolutely is filling that need. And I hope Scott Snyder is, I hope he pays.
I want him on there. He's like, once he's not on there. We could pack it in.
Oh.
We could pack it in. Yeah, I think the thing there I'd really like to do, which we've talked about, and I'd love to connect to the like point of sale systems and give creators a direct way to like connect to the stores, and that's sort of the next evolution of it. I hope so. A lot of begging and pleading to friends of your show. A lot of begging and pleading. I don't want the money. I don't want to touch the money. I just want to connect them.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And I think that there's a whole lot of development happening in that sort of connective tissue right now. That is, it's ongoing because it's right now it's a little Wild Westy.
It's very Wild
right?
West,
yeah. All the old gatekeepers are gone now, and there's really an opportunity for people like us to build those assets that are going to take us into the next decades of this industry. And I think it's a lot of people are seeing that opportunity, including you and I both, and friends of mine, and friends of the show. Absolutely. So, okay. So you have Bindings, and then now talk about now is the digital comics platform itself, it's called Sweet. Is that right?
Sweet
or is that
Shop.
just the name of the Sweet Shop?
Yeah, like a sweet shop.
Ah.
Listen, I know about the brand confusion problem, but we couldn't resist it. Like we're such jerks. We're just like we could have named it something else, and it would have been like perfectly nice, but we just couldn't. We couldn't resist it, and it's a problem we're going to be dealing with, and that's fine. That's fine. We will segment Sweet Shop into its own place on the internet very soon. So will be less confusing. But I understand. It's my own petard, as one might say. Yeah.
Listen, as somebody who often is chided for naming things and going, the SEO on this sucks. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's the right name.
I have questions for you about names, actually.
Okay. Let's hear it.
Number one, your name is Adam, right? Adam. Your birth given name.
I was born Adam. That is correct.
And
yes.
your current Atom with an exclamation point is how you show up in most places. Is that a legal name change, or is it just your cute play?
It is it's what's known as a legal alias, which means it's not on my ID, which is why Facebook now has me as ADAM because they made me show my ID. but it is I can sign contract. I can and have signed contracts. ATOM
Hmm.
exclamation point. So it came out of. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you really want to get into this,
I do really want to get into this.
but okay. All right, let's go. So we've talked a lot about the effect of the Warren Ellis Forum on comics just in
Yeah.
general as an
Were you part of
industry.
that?
It was
Dope.
yeah, I was in
A lot
there.
of great people
So
from there.
there's an archive of it
Hmm.
somewhere. I choose not to look at it because I'm sure there's going to be some embarrassing things for me. But it was an incredibly influential space out of which careers like Kieran Gillen and is it Gillen or Gillen? I don't know Kieran well enough to know.
I say Gillen, uh,
Okay,
but I honestly don't know. I think there might be a British and American way to say it, to be honest.
probably. You know, what's interesting is when Adam Freeman, I say ATOM and ADAM exactly the
Yeah.
same because I'm an
Yeah.
American. So for me, there's no like if you just say Adam, that's my
Yeah.
name. Whereas if you're British, you say atom
Atom.
or
Yeah.
Adam. And so like it only really is a problem. And I'm usually asked by British folks like, how do I say your name? I'm like, I don't
Yeah.
care. I honestly don't. I used to care. I used to like at some point I made a distinction between professionally I'm going to show up as a TOM, privately I'm
Yeah.
ADAM. But now I just whatever you call me whatever you want.
Okay.
I really
Oh,
couldn't
I've
care
called you
less.
many
So
things behind your back. Yeah.
yes. You
Yeah.
and
Many,
many
many
others.
colorful names, of course.
I will say that it came out of, as I remember it, and I'm at this point I'm choosing to remember this narrative because I've told it so many
Yeah.
times. There was we all had signature
Yep.
files in the forums, and at some point I had a joke like a theme. Everybody was choosing their superhero name, and so instead of being ADAM Freeman, I just made myself ATOM exclamation
Hmm.
point and just let that run for like a week or two. And then I guess it was like, maybe 2 or 3 months later, I went, oh shit, I never changed
Yeah.
that. I'd forgotten it was there. So I went in and changed it back. And, you know, someone I had a crush on at the time, I had an internet crush on, said, no, no, I like that
Yeah.
name. And I went, okay, fine, I'll keep it. And then because I was a retailer, I was a comics retailer, and I was trying to at the time the get was getting your name in the newspaper,
Hmm.
right? Being named as a source or something on whatever's happening in pop culture at the
Yeah.
time. And what I found was ADAM sometimes got quoted in the newspaper. ATOM always got quoted.
Fascinating. It's just marketing.
So it was just
That's
marketing.
cool.
It's just straight up. Yeah. So there you go. That's the ballad of ATOM exclamation point Freeman. And every time I've been in a masthead of a comic, it's always that spelling because it's much more interesting. People like your eye grabs it
Man, I want to find the
easily.
Discord that is a factory of amazing people like that Warren Ellis forum was. Like almost everyone who's come
You and
from
me
there
both.
that I've met is doing exceptionally cool things in a very cool space.
Yeah.
And I there's got to be a Discord somewhere with a bunch of people, you know,
Oh,
just excited.
uh,
I would those spaces are so magical in the way that I don't know. Can it be created again like back in those days? I don't know. That's a digital space that's interesting, but
let's build
I don't
that.
want it.
What
No,
do you say?
I'm at
You don't want to?
max. I'm at max.
I am too. I keep thinking that that's a Discord that I want to build.
Yeah.
Maybe coming out of this experience,
Hmm.
right? Is like if I just gathered all of our guests into one Discord, that would be
Yeah.
interesting. And people, I think it'd be cracking things. But like Comics Pro came out of that
Wow.
forum. Matt Fraction, Kelly
Yep.
Sue met and fell in love in that
Hmm.
forum. So many careers came out. Chip Zdarsky was on here talking about how he came out of
Yeah.
that, and it was also an entire generation of creators that got to thinking about themselves as the
Yeah.
product as opposed to just writers or
Hmm.
artists. So Matt Fraction, that's not his given
Right.
name, you know. Chip Zdarsky, that's not his given name, but they were encouraged to build themselves as
Yeah.
brands. and it's worked for
Yeah.
them, you know. So yeah, I don't know. I think a lot about that period and how we could recreate it. Hopefully, if somebody else doesn't, maybe at some point we will. But I would love to have a space like that where we are talking legitimately talking, because I think social media let us down. Right? It was supposed to be that way for us to connect and solve problems and learn from each other, and it really hasn't been.
Yeah.
Like it's just become something completely different. All right, but anyway, thanks for coming to my
I
TED
mean,
talk.
I definitely have thoughts on that for sure. Having worked in those spaces, yeah, I think they
Yeah,
it totally sucked. It totally sucks. It was really cool. It was a really interesting space, and like the algorithmic drive for engagement was a poison. It's a poison in every system it gets put in. I mean, yeah,
truly,
um,
truly.
yeah,
What's his name? The CEO of Patreon,
Moose. Yeah,
Pomplamoose.
Humble Moose.
Pomplamoose. Yes, yes. What is his name? I can't remember his name right
John
now. Anyway, I've
Patreon.
seen them. Yes, exactly. I've seen them
Yeah.
live. It's a fun
Mm-hmm.
show if you ever get a chance to. But he has this really great talk where he talks about the death of the
Yeah.
follower and how that sort of that need, as you said, like the VC money pushes everything. It pushes everything cool away until you're just looking at whatever's profitable, right? And the
Yeah.
algorithm did. TikTok ruined it for everyone.
Yeah. It's I think there's still opportunity there. I think if people stop viewing things as like having to be the winner of things, which of course they never will. But like if you accept a worldview where you're just like Blue Sky has 36 million people, that's a lot of people. That's a ton of people. Like that's
Yeah.
okay. Like it doesn't have to be 200 million people. Like it doesn't have to be that. And so I think, Discord, obviously, it's like smaller spaces like that have become the only problem is, and the least cool part is, they're not shared with the world. The Warren Ellis Forum was something anyone could access. Not everyone can access every Discord channel, Like, that's tough. Oh, I think it was something everyone can access. I wasn't a part of it. I don't have, my comics career is new. I didn't get to be a part of that group.
Well, it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't like invite
Yeah.
only, but you could easily get. I mean, people were kicked out of there
Yeah.
often for being
Which is great.
jackasses.
I mean, you need that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that curation, I think, kind of has to. If otherwise, you're not going to have a productive experience, right? But who's making that call and what is their priority? Those are all the things that go into this. It's hosting an ongoing dinner party that never ends.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Obviously, I haven't tackled that problem yet, but maybe someday somebody smarter than the two of us will figure that out. I hope, hopefully, you know, um, or Warren Ellis will figure out how to get everybody to let him do it again. That would.
I've been thinking about him a lot, and I obviously know what happened and the reasons that it happened, but I do miss his writing in comics quite a bit.
I do
And
too.
I think he was it's unfortunate every like that whole thing's like is bad, and I miss his writing. I loved his writing. He's probably one of my favorites, and like it sucks to have shit like that happen. I mean, Neil Gaiman is like talk about getting a spicy interview. Like this just
No kidding.
It just sucks. It just I have a lot of feelings.
It sucks. It really does. It sucks that we are not going to ever that we're not getting a chance as consumers to get the work that they're creating now.
Yeah.
Right? It's still being created, right? They're still they're still working. They're just working outside of the spaces that you and I are reading in. And I think it really does suck. But I also I want let's I mean if you don't mind, I'd love to explore this for a little bit. I know it's a chance to get it. It's a really problematic way of getting us both in trouble. But I'm curious.
But nothing beats like two middle-aged white dudes talking about this problem.
I know.
Let's put our no. I mean,
woe is me. Woe is me. I don't get to read the abusers'
there
work.
is good reason we're not reading their stuff, but I'm sad that had happened, and that they did.
Is there a redemption story to be had, though? Right? Is there a place for yes, this is who I was. This is no longer who I
Yeah.
am. Let me show up again. Is that possible in this day and age?
You know, I think I mean I once like saw a talk about how the internet's bad because it's the death of um it has an infinite memory, right? It just continues on.
Mm,
And a lot of forgiveness is based on like the lens of time, like going over people's eyes,
yeah.
like nostalgia kicks in. And beyond that, people just admitting that they did wrong and apologizing. I think if I think I think that that I think there is space for that depending on the what's committed. But the problem I have is this is just such a I I don't think like everyone will fuck up. I won't pat like purity tests are really hard.
Yeah.
But the level you fuck up and the space and height that you're in, like a better actor could be in that space. And if you're fucking up that space, um, there are tons of talented people in comics and people who aren't doing those kind of things that can then fill that space. And so I am sad that we don't see more books that Ellis did that happened. And as I learned like more in comics and talk to people, it is a complicated thing. Gaiman feels like cut and dry. It feels like pretty cut and dry. Like
Yeah.
that's a brutal account. It feels very truthful. The events like there's no reason to be that person. There's no reason to not be as kind as you can. You can get angry and fuck up, but you apologize and you apologize.
Sure.
Like you could like, and also like I don't. Clearly, I'm not neither a minority or a woman. I've never felt any threat in my life. I've had like all the gates open for me. I'm 6'3". I'm a big dude. Like I don't feel
Yeah.
threatened in most spaces. Like, and it's
Right.
already hard enough for people in those spaces to move in. So it just makes it like I don't know. The most disheartening thing is why you can be kind and do well in business. And a lot of the people in comics do.
Mm,
And you can be there should be those people should be given the most space. But we should not expect perfection from everyone in a very weird way. But what level of
right.
perfection like Gaiman, that's fucked up. like that is fucked up and that means no. That means you're done. I mean, you can't do
Yeah.
that to people. Um Ellis is it's he's a brilliant writer, but he was in a powerful place. Like, and I know some people especially have a lot of loyalty to him because they were on that forum and it was a meaningful space. And I don't think,
Hmm.
I mean, his actions are hard to distill um, because it's that problem of they said, and ultimately, I think that didn't have to exist. Like that didn't have to exist,
Sure.
and the fact that it was a repeated
Yeah.
pattern, I don't know. So I guess my hot take is that we should allow people to fuck up, but there are certain levels that we can't. That we just like you can't be a big piece of this space if you fuck up that bad. Like there are hungry people. It's a hard space. There are people doing good
Sure.
work, and I would rather make more space for them. Um, and we can't have things that disenfranchise women in comics, especially Western comics. It's so like there needs to be more women doing more things in comics everywhere and reading comics and like don't fuck that up. I mean, just like don't fuck with that. Like just
Yeah. Sure.
it's so I don't really have a complicated take. I'm kind of on like, well, this is, let's make space for people who aren't doing that. That's it.
You know, I'm not required. I'm just curious to see. It's a conversation that I've been having a lot lately. Is trying to understand are there redemption stories in this,
Yeah.
right? I think it's like one of the things that I saw recently was uh, Adam Warrock from the Beastie Boys, got married to Kathleen Hanna and said, we treated women poorly, right? Girls was a fucked up song, and I'm really sorry we did it, and now we want to do better.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that we have room for people who learn,
Yeah.
right, and have grown. I hope that's the case. But I hear what you're saying too. Like, there should be plenty of room at the table for everybody who can show up and wants to show up and do the work. But also, and so if you screw up, you're making room for somebody new, and that's a good thing too. So I don't know. I don't know easy answer. I thank you for clumsily stumbling through this with me. I appreciate
I don't
that.
know if I did a good job, but like, and I agree with you. Like, we have to forgive because every human is like, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting, like, and it doesn't mean you get to
That's
play
true.
at certain levels all the time. Like, the world is not fair, but it, we could be, we all human beings. This took an odd
Yeah,
turn from like Binding's my creator marketing tool, and that was my
I know.
fault.
I'm so
That was
sorry.
my fault because I just ramble like an idiot. I was just thinking about Trees by Warren Ellis, and it's just so disappointing.
I know. Anyway, all right. So,
We'll see.
getting
We'll
back
see if
to,
that makes the cut, Adam. Sorry.
I'll let you decide.
Yeah.
This might be a much shorter
Yeah.
episode as a result. Well, so let's move on from something that's controversial, and let's talk about AI.
Oh, it's amazing. How did I?
No.
How did I land? Let's see. We're just gonna jump from Warren Ellis to
No.
AI. That's great.
Although I do want to have a conversation
Totally.
about that, but I do also want to talk. You said that there were 4 pieces. Are there pieces that have still not been revealed?
No, we canceled one of the
Um,
other pieces.
did you
Yeah.
really? Can you talk about what
It was Neon
or
Ichiban.
no?
It's digital collectibles. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Oh,
It's not
okay.
that at all. It's not that at all.
It was the same name
Yeah,
and
yeah.
everything. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
I was like, you know what people want? NFTs. Yeah, let's talk about AI. I think it's really, obviously very important, and I'm happy to discuss it.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
good. Because I do have once again, I feel like my feelings on this are not nearly as cut and dried as seemingly many people in our
Mm-hmm.
space. And I am always curious to hear about, especially somebody like you
Yeah.
who understands where this world is
Mm-hmm.
going, and have obviously chosen not to. Like, you had made some public statements about. Let me see if I can't bring them up here.
We won't host AI anything on our platform.
No AI, anything,
Mm-hmm.
anywhere, right? So talk about that stance. I think it was called AI need not apply.
Yeah.
Was something that you produced. Does AI have any sort of place in the creative process for comics, and why? Where do you think that is going in the future?
I mean, AI is built on stolen goods. It is built on billion dollar valued $1 billion companies or whatever,
Sure.
stealing people's work, and turning it into something they make money off of, which to me is now oddly sanctioned copyright infringement that weirdly can't be copyrighted. Um, I think more people in comics are using AI than will publicly admit to it, just based on casual conversations, not for artwork
Sure.
though.
Right.
I have, and I'm on Dark as using it as like I would use Google or Stack Overflow to solve programming problems. I think those are algorithmic and instructional and a different take. Every time I do, it is sort of like just how I would Google something while I'm trying to figure out how to connect things. But it is, there's an energy cost to train those things, and they are draining. And I, it's like, I don't know. I have a lot of problems with my like that. But the one thing I definitely don't do is let AI touch anybody's artwork, nor accept any artwork or generated by AI. There are interesting cases where I think AI, if it didn't have such a huge cost for society for work, like
Sure.
could be transformative. I think that accessibility in particular, like reading a comic to someone is really interesting. Like a blind person could experience a comic read to them. It's not very good at it. It's not good at looking at images and understanding like fully what it is. And comics are so complicated. Um, the panel based layout, like they are hard for artificial intelligence to read. They can't to a certain degree, and we do use what it's machine learning. It's really stupid AI, and it doesn't like submit. It's like before they did all these LLMs like ChatGPT. It's what you do to process images and find like panels. And it doesn't store information about the artwork or anything like that. It just like guesses it. We do have some of that just for panel, like the guided view thing, that I've been
Mm-hmm.
playing with, and it's horrible like most of the time. And I've tweaked it like quite a bit. It just like the way when human art is such a wonderful thing. Um, so and I don't let LLMs touch it, just kind of as a rule. Um, and it's a pretty hard rule for everyone on our team, because we just don't want to put people's work into those hands. What else? What else is my bullet point? Yeah, so if someone submits, it's going to be more and more difficult as time goes on. A LLM generated comic on bindings, they we take down the comic immediately. Like no one has done that yet, um, at least to my knowledge. But we just can't support that sort of piracy, in my opinion. Um, like you, I think there's something interesting in people using like low energy models to train against their own artwork locally to
Mm-hmm.
like help them with production, because ultimately shipping comics is what a lot of the western artists, well I guess not just western, obviously the manga artists have the craziest fucking schedules, pardon my French.
Yeah, no kidding.
uh like but like that's not my decision to make for them. Like for them to, if they want to
Right.
train their own models and do things that like it knows how their hands work, like sure. um I don't know, like I said before, I like the big sacks of water walking around human element of things, and everyone uses Illustrator, everyone moves lines with computer tools. I can see that jump, that leap to be like, well, it's just moving the line for me, but the cost is so high to get there versus what we did to get to moving the line with a mouse pointer. Like. So I guess to answer your question, I have a very complicated feeling about AI. But please,
Right. And
what's your hot take?
I don't know that I have one. My every time I want to have this conversation, I find myself in rooms where there's people shouting on the left and people shouting on the right, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure, you both have
Yeah,
points, but the volume at which you're giving it makes it me less interested in what you're trying to
yeah,
say. Not more. Um, I don't know. There is a number of pieces here that I think are uh, in the on the anti AI side. You're absolutely right. It's
yeah,
theft, right? We've stolen all of this information, and yet, what is an artist's style if not just a coagulation of their
yeah,
influences? Right? We're talking about that on a larger scale, right? We're talking about a machine able to do
yeah,
that. If you look back at the history of computers, there's plenty of people, beginning in some of those first computers that were just designed for cracking cryptography that were doing the same thing. They were taking things that humans used to do and refining them using way too much energy, way too much power, way too much manpower, way too much mechanical
yeah,
need in order to do what humans were already doing.
yep,
It's just a matter of consolidating all of that human effort into a machine. Um, but you're right. We're in a world that's heating up, and we're taking something that's escalating that heating. So should we end there? I don't know. I don't have an answer for
Yeah.
that. What I do know is that we are in a reality where that's happening.
Hmm.
And there's not a whole lot you and I or any of the artists that I know that have hard stances against it. There's not a whole lot that we can do about
Yeah.
that. When I look at what on the pro AI side, when I look at that, I think that we're closing ourselves off to some things, and I think we need to at least acknowledge that we're closing ourselves off to them. You have chosen not to use VC money. I have chosen not to use VC
Hmm.
money in any of my businesses. However, a lot of our business is powered by that VC
Yeah.
money, and the VC money is chasing AI right
Yeah.
now. So that means that if you are trying to start a company inside of comics and you don't at least use the letters AI somewhere in your pitch deck, the chances of you getting that money are really
Hmm.
diminished. So are we okay with the idea that we're just not going to get any of that resource? Like that, I think that that's a simple. It's not a simple answer to that question.
Well, there are also other investment vehicles that are not VCs that don't have like the destroy all things mentality that VC
True,
does. So your doors aren't
true.
fully closed, Adam. I guess is what I'm saying. They don't have to be.
That's true.
Um,
No, it's very true.
and it's just finding like I understand the notion, and I have just decided, creators are my customers, publishers are arbiters. They're
Yeah,
the store itself. We're publisher driven. We're not community driven,
yeah,
and so they act as the sort of guard against that stuff, which is lovely for me because then I don't have to deal with it. Or they maybe let
yeah.
one in, and we have to figure out how to deal with that when that comes because they are also our customers. So, you know, in my case, I'd rather be in the back seat on this one. I think comics made by
Yeah, no,
humans uh, are fantastic, and I'm fine
agreed.
being in that space without that functionality. I mean, again, like the problems I think Sweet Shop's trying to solve are weirdly like problems that have existed since that sort of the discoverability issue. Like they're old
Yeah,
problems, like, and they're hard problems to solve, but they can be
yeah,
solved with not without AI, and they can be solved well without AI. And I'm
I
happy
believe
to
that.
be wrong if that changes. I know, younger generations have mixed bags of who's comfortable using it and who's not. Some people think it's like Google, which, to that end, I think people should have a way to make themselves findable in AI without necessarily making themselves like scannable. Like you can stop them from scanning the artwork, but still get the data because that is the new SEO.
Yeah,
And I think the data's fine for machines. But in the end, like I'm more of a plant a tree so it doesn't, uh, that I'll never see the shade of kind of guy. And
yeah.
burning up the planet right now, which is already burning, to like accelerate this just seems not the wisest choice. But hey, maybe this is the last. I mean, it feels like the last. Like speaking of dystopian, sometimes I go into sometimes it feels like the last last person on, last person off, turn the lights off, right? Like there's moments. Yeah.
Sure. Hey, any student of history though will tell you that it's felt like that seemingly for
Yeah.
our entire
Yeah.
history of humankind. But I will the on the other side of that, and to agree with you, to yes and what you're saying, I think that one of the things that makes comics so the value prop of comics is connection,
Yeah.
right? It's I, there's nothing in the art form of comics that is a separation from me to the
Yeah.
storyteller. Like somebody could sit down with a pencil and do a comic book
Hmm.
alone and speak to me directly as an audience member, and that is special, right? And that is part of the what keeps people coming into comic shops yes, AI would be maybe possibly make a better recommendation engine than a comic shop employee, and yet like there's something special about that relationship, and I don't.
It's
There's
literally chemical. It's
undefinable.
literally like
Yeah,
you have a chemical reaction, like dopamine, for
yeah,
that interaction with people. And so, like that's valuable. I mean, comics, like like music, can be very solo or very collaborative, and it's an original American art form. It's something
hmm,
beautiful that we did, and then the world like took their own version and made it amazing. And so it's just all these like nodes connecting with each other, doing different things. Creators, writers, and then it goes to retailers, and then it goes, the
yeah.
GIs brought it to Japan, and now we have manga, and it's amazing. It's the best art form. Like it just is, so much has to go into making this thing work.
I know. Yeah,
It truly is a wonder it happens. And I just love it. And I feel like the again, the AI should be, robots should be doing our laundry. They shouldn't be drawing artwork. Like
I
they
agree with
literally
that.
need to do the laundry so that everyone has more time to make more art. It's one of the coolest things we do as a species, even if it's shitty
Amen.
art. It's like one of the coolest things we do.
Amen. Amen. And but again, there is also, I just think that there needs to be a conversation
Yeah,
personally, and I'll get off my own personal soapbox. I think that the demonizing of people that are exploring those spaces is not necessarily the way to go.
yeah,
Because they are the explorers, right? They might find something new that we haven't that wasn't unexpected.
yeah.
And I just don't feel like we're going to be best served by saying anybody who deals with AI is not of us. Like that's just I don't know. That feels short sighted as
I mean,
well.
my struggle is always going to be it's a shorthand to cheap accessibility. That's kind of my point. But
Yeah,
is it worth it? And I'm going to be a luddite about it. And I made
yeah,
that piece, and that might burn the company when it's all of a sudden everyone's only reading AI comics or something like that. But well, right now that's not the case. And to the degree that we go where the market wants to go, we go. But um, I'm very comfortable not partaking in that right now. Although, like I'm like, but if we spend all this energy and AI like can cure cancer, like can respond to cancer, like how
yeah.
much have we paid for it? Like it's very nuanced, it's very challenging. Obviously I'm a technologist too. Um
Right.
but like yeah, like the art thing I'm not on board with. I'm not on board with. I know that it's hard to do things, and like comics are delayed all the time. It's a hard process that with
It
like a
is.
ridiculous deadline for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Including the retailers who have the most ridiculous, like the direct market system works, but it is an insane system when you explain it to people.
But only just
Yeah, yeah,
barely, and it has always
yeah,
only been just
yeah.
barely.
I mean,
Yeah,
but you're
yeah,
just
yeah.
like, oh yeah, but they have to like pre-order, and it comes in a box, and it's not returnable, and it's this, and you're just like, what, what, why, you poor, like. Then you realize that just I don't know, like some of my favorite people have been comic shop retailers over my life who just would talk to a chubby, which I've never been able to shake, like 13-year-old kid about the X-Men for an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just when you find out more about the system, you're like, oh man, this is tough. I can't. I'm not here. Like we've talked about this before. I'm not here to solve problems. Like a lot of tech people come in and they're just like, I have the magic bullet solution for you. I see everything that's wrong. I am here to maybe make suggestions of things that I've seen in other places. And if everyone's like, no, I'm like, yeah, you're right. That was a dumb idea. Like I'm here to learn. That's why we talk a lot. I talk a lot to you to
Yeah.
learn.
Same.
Uh,
Same.
and
Same. Same.
so like, yeah, so like that human connection is it's the consistently great thing about comics. And it gets really interesting when you think about like if we get artificial intelligence like like its own thinking creating art space, if we get like cybernetic humans that create art, like we're now entering the Blade Runner zone, right? Like, and so I think it's
Yeah.
important to keep having those conversations as it just shows up everywhere. But again, uh I've chosen maybe to be on the wrong side of history in this case, but I love the art that these artists create and spend hours learning how to draw feet and horses.
Yes.
And that's meaningful to me. And so I will continue fighting for that meaning, maybe to Sweet's detriment.
And just so that it is clear for anybody who thinks I am sitting on a pro AI
Why do you
stance,
love AI and hate artists, Adam? That's what I'm hearing.
None of our clients, as far as I know, are
Yeah.
using AI in any sort of creative
Yep.
function. I know plenty of people like you who think of it as, including myself. I used ChatGPT 5 to help do some of the research for this
Mm-hmm.
conversation. I will say that we. Yeah, I hear all of
Yeah.
that, but I will say that at the end of the day, it is the thing I think that we all want and crave is
Yeah.
connection, and that connection you don't get the same connection from a machine, no matter how much it seems to be really good at aping humans.
Yeah.
So
I think the anger
yeah.
is real and deserved from the community at what happened with all the work
Sure.
they've done. I have a friend who works at Facebook whose book that they sell was a part of the stolen material at his own company. Yeah.
Wow.
And so, like, I think that that's very meaningful. And I think if you talk to people one on one, the internet's a tube of disgustingness.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone's willing to have a conversation if everyone feels it's better, and some people don't, and that's fine too. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, a reasonable stance as well. And I think your stance is reasonable too.
From a purely legal standpoint, right now there is no defensible
Yeah.
copyright coming out of AI for a good
Yeah.
reason, because they had those models, those companies have not. There's no end to the challenges that are coming to
Yeah.
them, right? Warner Brothers right now famously is going after them. I'm sure every IP holder is going to be attacking these major
And they should.
companies, as they
Yeah.
should. This should be
Yeah.
challenged. We should find where our laws should reflect the reality that is all of these things were stolen,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that should be a conversation that's had, and we'll find some place in the middle, and we'll all grow from that place. I think that's how it should work, and I think it is working in that way in real time. So yeah, I mean, just from a consulting point of view, if you're out there and you're thinking about using AI to create intellectual property, do not.
Yeah.
It's not ready, even if it ever will be. It may never be.
Yeah. Just
good.
one more final
Yeah.
note on that is I really, really hate what Spotify has done, where they've injected AI like slop because they don't want to pay people money for the work that is similar to what they've done. Like, that is the grossest abuse of any of those systems. If you cure cancer with AI, then yeah, like we could probably negotiate our way in a good face conversation about that. But if you're just replacing artistry with like, that's the grossest. That's the grossest stuff. Like, I hate that. I hate that so much, and I don't want that for my kids, for myself, for anyone to have to experience that. So that's why I'm going to be a cranky old man about this particular subject on our software. We all agreed, my partners and I.
Good. I'm glad. And I think that when we talk about the distinguishing features, at some point that is going to be a distinguishing feature, if it's not already, for Sweet. Is like that people will choose that because of that. Wow. Look at what we did, man. We're solving all the problems here today, Kenny. Like I thought we were just going to be talking about your digital comics and getting there, but
no, apparently I'm really bad at this, and I can't even get my products up front in the podcast. Instead, I'll go on very controversial subjects, and hopefully, people see my perspective. I hope
conversation is important.
Yeah.
I really do believe that, and conversation is only ever as productive as people are able to feel honest in having it. I think that's it's an important piece. Talk to me about where you see, you're a technologist, you're a humanist, you like these big gooey bags of water that are walking around creating shit. Talk to me about where the future of we could talk about the future of comics, but like, let's talk about the future of digital
Yeah,
comics. Have we? How big is the space now? How big is the space going to be? Because I'm sure you have these conversations where people are trying to, say, all right, but how big is the market cap? Right. So, yeah, where are we going?
I think the market cap is gigantic. Like, I mean, I think it's bigger than just by nature of the space that it occupies than retail comics. Just because retailers aren't everywhere. Like, and I think
Right.
comic readers are everywhere. And I think there's a new generation. I talk a lot about I've talked a lot about the kids on this podcast, but literally, my kid reads the Babysitters Club as a graphic novel, not as a book.
Yeah.
Um, and you know that population has turned to manga because they did a really good job just advertising and cross promotional stuff with that. And I think it was what was that article about Shonen Jump, and then Heidi at Comics Beat wrote this like, here's what Western. She's so funny at the headlines. Speaking of headlines, like
Oh,
sometimes she just it's really like weirdly gloomy doomy, but
she loves calling for the end of everything we've
it's
ever
such a
known.
natural
Like I love
instinct. It's
her.
a natural
I love
instinct.
her, but she just loves
Yeah,
that, man. I don't know how many times she's told us that single issues are going to die, very
yeah.
soon in a pyre that they've built themselves. But
Turns
yeah,
out you just need
yeah.
to give Scott Snyder control of the DC universe. We've entered like the creator arbiter era of comics, and I think it's going well. I think
Truly,
Hickman and
I think
I
so
think they
too.
saw Krakoa, and then Snyder knows what he's doing, and yeah, and to that end, it's a hits business. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think it's a huge space. I think there's a lot of people who don't have access to a comic store. Um, they don't really know what comics are in the way we think of comics. In a lot of ways, I think there's Webtoon has shown too that you can also build an audience, which the West
right.
has failed to do, of women reading comics to a degree, and manga and
Sure.
Webtoon do a really good job of. Um, in a lot of shops, I mean, there's a lot of shops on the West Coast that do really well too. It's again, the shops are such an extension of their person. Like even my own digital store is sadly an extension of my personality. So trying to break out of that a little bit. They the ability to have someone suggest something to you and then like have it in your hands in 2 minutes is just compelling for us as impulse control problems. Um,
Hmm.
so the stories. I think it's pretty big. I think there's going to be 3 players, one of which I hope I am, that are fighting against obviously Amazon, which is not small potatoes whatsoever, but is still the biggest digital comics retailer. Um, and there's reason for that, and there's a reason that my competitors have gotten a ton of money because that growth is there. People are hungry for it, and the big stores are bookstores. They're not serving the comic space, and the comic space
Right.
is a big money space when it wants to be, and it pretends to not be,
Hmm.
and then it pretends to be humble, and they use the word niche, but I don't think it's a
Yeah.
niche space. I think that's a miscategorization. I think it's a geeky space, but the only reason we think it's niche is because no one has any freaking data. You're the one who's trying to solve some of that. like
I'm
but like we
trying,
can't
dude.
get
I'm trying.
Amazon's data. Like we don't Amazon will not like let us know what the best sellers. I mean, we know the best sellers, but like we all know Batman and Spider-Man sells, but how much does it sell on Amazon?
Yeah.
So nobody really knows. The only example we have is Webtoon right now, which is the only publicly traded company, and that's $1 billion a year company. And they just got Star Wars. Like, this is no joke. Like, like,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of money. And if we're talking money, I think there's a room for a lot of people, a lot of different companies. Like there are retailers across the country, not comic retailers like Target and like those exist. So it's huge. It's the world, and it's mostly the Western world. I feel like Asia has kind of got it figured out. Like they have it pretty locked in, and the only entry in there is really if you're bringing more Western comics to Asian consumers, because all those companies kind of know what they're doing. Um, and they have a system that's set up so they can charge like lower prices as well. Just the whole way their studio system works. But I think the opportunity
Yeah.
is big. I think people are really hungry in South America, in Central America, in Europe. Even they don't get the experience we get on Kindle, which is saying a lot. Like, because our experience isn't like great. Um, so it's underserved, and I really would love to help more people find out that comics are for them and find that comic that sort of speaks to them in that regard, because it's, that's the joy of a digital store, is I don't have the constraints of a physical space. And so that means a lot. That means you could find people. That means people can pick up their phone in Saskatchewan and read some obscure graphic novel from a budding upcoming artist that Ablaze took a chance on.
Right.
And I think that's powerful.
Let's say for a minute you get. I'm trying to build a scenario here to get the answers I
Yeah.
want out of
Okay.
you. Let's say you are brought in to fix one of your competitors, right? So I want to let's talk about Neon Ishiban. Let's start there. What do you think their challenges are for they brought us particular value prop that is over and above what you're doing. What do you think their challenges are for getting that to have any traction?
Well, their big thing was getting Marvel and DC. Like that got them in the newspaper, in the New York Times, right?
Right.
And so they are.
Which Global, I believe Global got day and date for DC. I think they just announced today. Am I getting that wrong?
It's possible. I suspect Global will also have Marvel pretty soon. I suspect that's in the works. So they immediately lose that as an advantage. And Global already has a built-in subscription, and most of the publishers on them. Yeah. So, and then so their pitch then is the digital collectibles, which I think is a very specific kind of person. And there is a lot of money in that, but a lot of that money has been in NFTs traditionally, and they are not NFTs. And so the NFT collectors, which crypto has gotten a big boost from our current administration, so it's kind of back in a money making capacity,
Sure.
which I don't. A nuanced approach. The energy problems of crypto are solved. They don't cost as much energy, and obviously NFTs are not my favorite thing on the planet, but there is money to be made there. I don't want to make money in that space. I don't want to touch crypto. But what they do is like a database one, so it's like a fallible collectible. Like if their database goes down or something happens, there's your collectible. Obviously that probably won't happen just because of the way cloud services work. They're gonna struggle to. I mean, once that advantage of who they have is gone, it has to be a compelling space that has to be better than Kindle, and I don't know if they have that. I don't know. I mean, they're supposed to launch soon too, so
yeah.
They haven't launched yet, so I don't know what their thing is. I don't think they're doing mobile apps, which of course is behind Global, which is in all spaces. So,
Right.
yeah, and I think they'll try to get exclusives and spend a lot of money doing that, just like the Comixology playbook, and that's not fun to compete with because it's just like I feel like it's competing on the wrong things. But hey, that's business. It's not fair. It's not meant to be fair. It's capitalism, baby. So yeah, and a lot of it's riding on their reputation, but a lot of great people made Comixology happen. It just wasn't just those two, and those people got fired 4 years, 5 years ago, and a lot of the things that happened at Comixology, I mean, David was the head of comics for Comixology.
Right.
So for Amazon, the head of comics for Amazon. So he, he was in those meetings. I don't. He's a nice person. I've talked to him. He's always been friendly.
Yeah, to me as well.
I just their play feels maybe like Distillery wasn't working, and they just went with the nostalgia take. It just feels there's no heart in it. It feels heartless a little bit, but and I think you need the heart. I think you need the heart. I think Global, to their credit, whether or not, I mean, I'm obviously building a competitor. I think the heart, I mean, they started scrappy, and now they are launching day and date with DC and probably Marvel, probably at New York. You know, I think that's a long road to get there. It's pretty hard.
If you're hired tomorrow as CEO of Global, what do you think their challenges
I'm
are?
not going to say it.
I like that. Okay, you talked about Comixology, and I want to talk about something that is really, I think at the heart of what I see as maybe a challenge for you. Comixology kind of their story is that they began as a subscription service for comics shops,
Yeah.
right? They created this platform for people to subscribe, and that data went to the comic shops. At the time, I remember being a retailer saying it's really tempting, but I'm not going to because I don't trust you to have my customers' data. And a lot of people felt that way. And then as I've talked to David about this, he has basically said, "Look, we were planning on building what some of the POS systems that are building now. That was the plan we were making, but then it became obvious that the play towards Amazon was there for the taking, and so we leaned all the way in on that." Can you talk about like why you are interacting a lot with creators and even retailers on your Find Your Comic Shop app?
I am going to murder you. Findyourcomic.store. It rhymes. Findyourcomic.store. Find your comic store. I am going to murder you.
I practiced that to lead you into that. So why should retailers trust you with that interaction, right? Because you are setting yourself up in this in basically the same way that Comixology was born.
The skeptical ones shouldn't. They should just wait it out. They should. I mean, it's a time thing for me. I'm just gonna stick around. It's gonna be annoying. Like I'm gonna stick around and I'm gonna keep talking to them, and I'm relentless. I'm only interested in doing this, in building this space, in hopefully elevating the amount of income on all levels, including passive income for retailers, because I love this space. It's obnoxiously stubborn. I think there are businesses that have done well being this kind of stubborn sort of like value. Sounds cheap saying value, but like, Costco exists and they treat people well and they pay people well, and yes, they do big box stuff and it's crazy, and we compete, like we compete. But I want to believe, and I'm stubbornly trying to believe, that I can be competitive and also build something useful for people, hopefully. So for me, I'm not trying to build like the pull list thing. I'm not trying to build a point of sale system. I do not want to build a point of sale system. I want to work with point of sale systems. Like, to me, it's just a matter of connecting pieces that great people are already doing. Like, I'm not creating the comics. I'm not, I will be recommending the comics. I love going to comic book stores. I've been going to comic book stores since I was a kid. I still go to comic book stores. Those are physical comic books behind me. I'm just trying to build bridges, and I'm going to stick around. And that's the goal. And if I failed at that, then that's fair. You can definitely, egg on my face. But yeah, I think there should be more of these people creating more comics, more places to buy them, and more options for people to find them. And I am stubborn in that sentiment. So, if a comic shop and I'll be presenting for the first time in front of retailers in New York at New York City Comic Con, and we'll kind of talk about what our plan is there. At the end of the day, comic books have comicshoplocator.com in their, a lot of them in the back of their books or on their websites. Diamond is gone. uh, Find Your Comic Store was built because I hated that site in the first place and I kept seeing it, and it was built at the same stubbornness that I hope will keep us in the game. um, Essentially, it's free. What we will do is we'll be like, hey, we're going to launch this on Sweet Shop. You're allowed to participate, but we'll keep adding things like, hey, I think we're going to talking about probably adding their newsletter, like, so people can sign up. I mean, we want to keep supporting retailers so that comic shops don't just be like Google Maps, which exists too. I'm not an idiot. I just like know that comic books like having a place to send people to find their comic store specifically because it's such an important part, and I wanted it to be good and I wanted it to show who they were, and Google doesn't do that, and I wanted to replace that in a way that was helpful for stores. And there's the obvious connection. It's not like the altruism is like, I can be like, hey, here's this stuff, like this creator's on bindings, check out their work. This creator, like, here's our digital store. If you're out of stock of something, let's talk, we can maybe figure something out. It's just bridging what I think are ways that help us both. I hope they're ways that help us both. But so to answer your question, I have no intent to sell to Amazon. I've had a lot of discussions with people who post it, like, theoretically to me. But you also have to keep the business going. So that's the goal. Just to be there, to be constant, and to be annoying. That's what I'm going to be.
Well, I believe that you're capable of all of those things. So I'm looking forward to watching and having you show up in these spaces continually. Is there anything, we've been at this for a
Yeah.
couple hours now? Is there anything we haven't covered that you wanted to make sure that our audience hears about? The dozens of people who are listening.
If you are a comic store owner, go to findyourcomic.store. Uh, you can search your zip code, you can claim your store, and you can sort of personalize it in a lovely way. We are I've been promising it for forever, but I mean, committing to a stage at New York City. We are finally going to do our big data loop. You also, if your store's missing, you can add it very easily. We've tried to make it as non-committal as possible, the least amount of work you can possibly do. We're showing up in the back of like Ignition Press books, which is super fun. Love them. I know you had Philip on here, and we really want, just like, I don't know, it just starts the conversation, and you can email me if you're skeptical, and we'll talk. I'm happy to talk with anyone. So
I believe that. Where else can people find you?
Sweet.dev is kind of the hub. I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Instagram. I'm on all those spaces. I'm on Facebook. And you could just look up Sweet Software for Comic Folks, LinkedIn. And I'm usually, my big dumb face is right there.
Well, God bless you, the big dumb face, for showing up. I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the time you've given to this today. I'm like I said, I am very much looking forward to seeing what you guys build, and it's been fun. It's been fun following your progress so far. So I'm looking forward to seeing how you keep showing up despite all of our best intentions of destroying. I appreciate you being there. So thank you. And thank all of you, the literal dozens of you who are watching this and supporting our little project. If you have not, I'm told I have to continually remind you to like, subscribe, and hit alert buttons. I always feels weird to say it, but you should anyway. And you should go to check out the sweet.dev suite. because he picked the name for a reason. There's going to be a lot of. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more showing up as we go along. Thank you, Kenny, so much.
Such a pleasure, man. I'm honored.
We'll see you in New York.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that.